Don't wait till the battle's over. Don't wait till the struggle ends. Shout now, shout now, right now. Shout now, shout now. Don't wait till you make it.
Hey everyone, and welcome to the PHILLIP Show. I'm so glad that you're here. Listen, anybody that knows me knows that I am a huge proponent of clear communication. I really enjoy when people have things to say and they want to express themselves or they want to jump into a dialogue and they're very clear about the destination or their intent. You know, today we have so many ways that we can connect, right? Social media, so many virtual chats, Zoom, all of these things. But what happens when there are all of these topics, but we're not being very intentional with our time? We're not being very intentional with our words. We're not being intentional with the outcome that we're trying to achieve, or we don't identify it. Well, today we're talking about the courage to have challenging conversations that are happening all around us, but we're bringing them down and we're being intentional about the conversations that we're having. And today the conversation goes around race. How do we discuss this? Who is going to have these conversations? And how do we create the framework where we're able to listen? We're joined today by Len Kramer, and he is here to talk with us about having these courageous conversations. Hey, Len.
Hey, Philip, how are you?
I'm doing really great. How are you doing today?
I'm good.
That is awesome. So we're talking about conversations and just communicating. Before we get into the courageous conversations and what that actually means, I want to get a little bit of where are you from and how did you end up here where we all are in Yellow Springs?
Well, I'm originally from New York City and the suburbs.
Okay.
And I wound up here because I took a job at Wright-Patterson, which was going to be for a couple of years, you know, and then I'd go back to the East Coast. So now it's what, 54 years later, I'm still here, you know. So.
Well, welcome. So you're from New York, and the reason why I'm asking these questions is because I want to frame your participation in these types of conversations. So you're from New York. Where is your family from? Where do you originate? Where do they originate?
Well, you want to go back far enough, they originate in Eastern Europe.
Okay. In
And,
Eastern,
Yeah, and then, you know, we've been in this country since the mid 1800s, late 1800s, depending upon which family.
Right.
My father's. Yeah. So
Well, I think
mostly
that
in New York and
mostly,
in the Midwest. I mean, my mom was born in Indianapolis. My dad lived for a while in Cleveland, and, you know.
yeah. Listen, I used to live in Cleveland and I used to live in New York. So we may or may not be twins. Maybe. I don't know. Perhaps. Here in Yellow Springs.
Psychically, at least. You know.
Psychic. I mean, clearly we look alike. So there's that. You know, there's that part. In Yellow Springs, for those of you who don't know, the PHILLIP Show is recorded in Yellow Springs, a very small, eclectic, and it's considered a village. So in Yellow Springs, there are a lot of different, it's very diverse, correct? Would you consider it, are we diverse?
Less than we were when I moved here, but we're still diverse.
Okay. So we're diverse, but you found that there was still a need to be intentional about addressing certain topics.
Yes.
What did you find and how did courageous conversations come about?
Okay. So in 2017, I'm a member, let me back up a second. I'm a member of the Yellow Springs Havarah, which is a small Jewish group in town. And in 2017, we decided we wanted to get involved in social action.
Okay.
We're a small group, so we looked to see who we could partner with. And because I know John Gudgel, we contacted the 365 Project as another group involved in social action.
Okay.
And John recommended that we have the young people of color, some people from the Young People of Color group, come to talk to us at one of our lunches. And we invited other people from the community to participate as well. And these three young women came to talk to us about their experience growing up Black in Yellow Springs. And the word I have for that is it was horrifying.
I gotcha.
I always considered us to be a diverse, tolerant community, and these young women did not find that.
So you're saying it was horrifying to you
Me.
because your understanding of where you lived was not their experience.
That's correct. Their experience was totally different than what I thought who we were.
Mhm.
You know?
Yeah.
So me being me, who's involved with mediation and small group conversation, I started to look for facilitated conversation guides that could maybe get groups of people together to talk about these issues in a meaningful and productive way.
Sure.
So I came across an organization called Everyday Democracy
Mhm.
that produces study guides for communities to use they're facilitator guides for communities to use to hold these kind of conversations. And they have one on race called Facing Racism in a Divided Country.
Okay.
And I looked at it. It looked pretty good from my point of view. I got a group of people from the 365 Project and the Havara together, and we talked about doing that in the village and whether it would be productive or not. We decided to do a test group with members of the 365 Project and members of the Havara to see if this was really a meaningful way to address these kind of conversations. And I need to talk now a little bit about the guide and why we thought it was so good.
Absolutely.
It's 6 sessions, 2 hours each, preferably once a week.
Mhm.
They go in an arc from personal experience with racism through your community and national views of racism and on to individual and collective actions that you want to take to fight racism.
Okay.
So the key thing here is that it ends with action.
Aha. Yeah.
So it's not just talking, it's getting to us, a place.
Right.
So we did this test group with 12 people and 2 volunteer facilitators and worked well. I mean, we did find there were some lacks, that the guides lacked some things for a small community. They're really designed, and I might say they've been used in thousands of communities across the country, but they've been designed for neighborhoods in big cities.
For larger.
For a neighborhood in a larger environment, as opposed to a rural village that's
Let me
kind of
ask-
self-contained.
Let me ask you something very quickly. Now, you said that you were partnering with your group, the Havara, correct?
And the 365 Project.
And the 365. What about, I guess this type of conversation was missing from both groups? Was this not something that was already addressed in some way? Or was the idea to say, you know what, instead of doing it independently, let's collectively find resolve or find communication?
A little of both.
Okay.
The 365 Project has in its mission holding courageous conversations.
Okay.
Exactly those words. And they've done some of that in the past, but they hadn't done it with a small group focus with the action component.
Gotcha.
And we, the Havara, were committed to social action, but didn't really have a vehicle.
Gotcha.
Okay? And together we found this process, and we called it Courageous Conversations because it fit with the mission of the 365 Project.
So once you started this courageous conversation, I guess the pilot program, and you noticed that what did you notice to say, hey, I think there's something here, let's continue?
Well, I think what we noticed was that the collective action we decided to undertake as a pilot group was to continue the conversations.
Okay.
That we all found it useful. And it was an integrated group, pretty much half and half, black and white.
Okay.
But we all learned a lot about each other and about racism in the course of these conversations.
So you have the guides, and you're kind of mapping it out through the guides. And I
Right.
just want to work through, because if I'm somebody out there listening, I'm looking for, where is it that you were looking to go? Like the conversation goes on for 6 weeks in an attempt to do what?
To, first of all, educate everybody about the really evil aspects of racism,
Mm.
and the lingering presence, no matter how woke you think you are.
Yeah,
Um,
this is true. Yeah,
and then to figure out, as an individual or collective group, what can we do about this?
yeah.
And there are groups that have continued after they've been through the courageous conversations. 6 weeks have continued to meet and do things.
So
So
people enjoyed, I guess, the growth and the opportunity to engage. So they said, "Hey, I know this is after the 6 weeks, but this is really impacting in a positive way. Let's continue." That's huge. What are some, I guess, some barriers that you see, or that you found, to either people wanting to participate, finding the desire, or the relevance? It-
well, I think we've been. It's been easy to get. Uh, Not easy to get. We've been able to recruit lots of white people to participate in these groups.
Huh.
It's been more difficult to recruit African Americans to participate in these groups.
Hmm.
I think a lot of African Americans see it as educating the white folks, and that's not something they need to do. There are other groups that for white people to learn about this, that maybe um, might be effective as well. But the value of this is you hear from people you establish an emotional and connection to
Mm,
in the course of these discussions, that are different than you, and you see their pain
mm.
and you feel their pain.
Yeah. And it probably
And
goes
that,
to, go ahead.
oh, no, no, go ahead.
I was going to say, and that probably goes to, as an African American sitting in one of those groups. And I will say, it can be, and I'll speak on behalf of myself, but I'm sure it resonates. It can be exhausting having to have those conversations over and over. That's why I was asking the question about relevance and value, because I think also that connectivity, when somebody is different from you, and even with the perceptions of, oh, I got to teach them this, it's sometimes the connection of seeing somebody and hearing them, and actually listening to their questions and concerns, or even misunderstanding, that you can kind of speak into it, because now you're there and you have that in-person, if you will, connection. It's not just something that you read on a board or in a blog or in an article. They can actually talk through the process. Is that something that seems to be beneficial during the group?
I believe so.
Hmm.
I mean, I really think establishing that, I mean, like I said, I believe the way you change people's minds is through interaction
Yeah.
and small group discussion, because you get various viewpoints. And I think it was uh, illuminating for all of us
Yeah.
that participated in that group. Um, and I mean, um, the people who participated in that group really wanted to do it, really
Right.
wanted to have this interchange. It wasn't like anybody was reluctant
Right.
or reluctant to be vulnerable and to talk about these uncomfortable things. Everybody was, uh,
You have to come to the table and have to, it's intentional courage. I'm coming here to be courageous. I'm coming here to be vulnerable. I'm coming here to be, in a lot of times, I know that I'm going to be uncomfortable tackling head on some discussions that we have the luxury of skating around, when there's not that kind of direct communication.
certainly, and for me
Mhm.
personally, as a participant in that first group, I revealed things to the group that I don't think I'd ever told many people before.
Mm.
But since then, I've been able to talk about it much more freely with other friends.
I know that Yellow Springs is going into Village Wellness Month. And you hit on something that is so interesting to me. You mentioned the word healing. Is there um, the opportunity for people to come in? I know you said it for yourself, but have you seen it through other people that they didn't know that they would receive as much rich understanding or rich connection as they did?
I I, I think so.
Hmm.
I don't know for sure, but
Sure.
I think so. There's a group that's really committed to participating in this, and you know, many of the people who have been through a group have been facilitators of later groups.
Okay. So you
And
can go on so you can become a facilitator. I can sign
sure,
up or join the conversation. I can be courageous and join the conversation. And then I can take the next step and become a facilitator.
yes, a lot of people have done that, and we welcome that because we always need facilitators for all these groups.
There seems to be, in a lot of challenging back and forth, specifically in a small town, there seems to be a lot of conversation or a lot of activity, it looks like, surrounding diversity and surrounding a lot of equality. But the need for this is very interesting, you know, because at face value, it would seem like there's no need to have these conversations. Do you run across that where
I,
people are just like, I don't know why we even have to do this. We're fine. We're Yellow Springs, everybody's favorite place. Everyone loves this. And it's like Mecca.
I,
And, it's like, what?
I feel that way,
Oh,
or I felt that way. You
yeah.
know, no, no, exactly. I mean, really, we're Yellow Springs. Like my kids went through the school system here. They had friends who were African American, and they were welcome in our house. And why would I need to do this? But it
Yeah.
turns out we do.
Mm,
That no matter what you think, it's not enough.
mm.
Uh, you
That's,
know, I don't know what else to say.
yeah.
It's an I like to say I am working on my racism.
Mm.
I will never be done working on it.
Did you have to get to a point to know that? When did you say that? How
I
do you
think
know?
in that first group was the
Mm,
first time I actually said it. I believed I was past that, and I don't think I am. I mean, I know I'm not. I shouldn't say I don't think. I know I'm not. It's a constant awareness
mm.
um, that I enjoy uh, an advantage
Okay.
being white,
Hmm.
and that advantage I need to be active and doing things to be aware of that, and then to make sure I use that advantage to fight racism wherever I
Mm.
can.
Out of these courageous conversations, what other projects or what in the village has been birthed or has come forth?
Well, the one of the groups that continued and is still going on is the Next Steps group.
Next steps.
Uh, Put up the Black Lives Matter banner downtown.
Oh, so out of courageous conversations was next steps, and from there we now have the Black Lives Matter banner.
Right, and color me. I don't remember the exact name, but they also put. Um, they also were able to uh, get funds to give out crayons of different flesh colors in the
Oh,
schools,
oh
so
wow.
that kids could use um, different colors than if you remember our old Crayola boxes, they had
Yeah.
one flesh tone and it wasn't anybody's flesh tone. It was kind of pink, you know.
For somebody who's listening now, because I know in my mind I feel like somebody's going to ask, why does that matter? Why, what is the big deal with crayons and having flesh tones? Why is that
I, I,
a
I,
celebration piece,
I'm not an educator, so I'm not going to speak from that. But
in your opinion?
I would tell you that for kids, um, not having ways to express things that look like them
Mm,
could be a problem.
mm,
I've read things about teachers are role models, but if you don't have black teachers, then where do black kids see the role models for themselves?
Sure.
Those kinds of things I think are real.
Hmm.
And it's part of institutionalized racism. You don't see yourself in the community around you. It's a problem. You know?
Yeah.
And I think crayons, they sound pretty simple, but I think it's more than simple. I
Yeah.
think it's a part of a complicated issue.
Yeah, I think representation, like where do I see me? I don't feel like I'm seen, or I feel like there's a tapestry of the world and everybody can see themselves. However, where am I?
Right.
So I really understand that. What is your hope? And I know that you don't work on courageous conversations alone. There's a whole team of people, correct?
Yeah,
Uh-oh. No?
sure. I mean, well, I'm the project director, sort of,
Okay.
but there's facilitators and,
Facilitators.
people that worked on the guide to modify
Okay.
the guide to make it fit our community a little better. Yeah, so there's a bunch of people.
Okay, so the conversation takes teamwork.
Right.
What is your hope? Um, what is your hope for these conversations?
That's a good question. Um, we'll never reach the entire village
Mm,
just because it's hard, to do that. But my hope is that we will reach enough people that um, that the young people of color don't have to come into other groups and relay the same experiences.
mm,
Because from what I understand, and I missed the Martin Luther King celebration this year, but from what I understand, there was an essay that relayed the same concerns we heard 4 years ago, 5 years ago now.
mhm.
And if that's true, then we haven't made much progress in 5 years, let alone 300 years.
Mm. One of the things that you said about the courageous conversations is leading to action.
Yes.
We can be very people, and I'm not using Yellow Springs as an example, but we can be very meeting heavy, and we can be very action sounding, but very much like you're saying, if somebody has the same experiences over and over and over, and they're verbalized, but actions aren't taken to change the situation, then it's kind of starting from square one, it seems, all over again every single time,
Every generation.
every generation. So what actions, let's pinpoint that. So there's courageous conversations for people who want to get involved or do something. What actions can people take?
Wow. Um, I'm not an expert in this. I would say that um, one of the actions could be. So I'll back up a little bit. One of the people in the group I participated in said that he'd never had a white person in his house.
Mm,
They'd never visited him in his house. So one of the things I promised to do was whenever I have an event or a party or something, make sure I invite my African American friends,
mm.
not as tokenism, but because I want to make sure they know they're welcome.
Yeah.
Um, so I don't know what the exact uh, actions other people might want to take are. We
Yeah.
don't track that as a
Sure.
as a you know as a project.
Yeah.
I know the Next Steps initiative has been very successful at doing things. I'm not sure about the other groups.
Yeah. Well, I
Um,
like what you said because you personalized it. A lot of times the next step or the next action step is what can I do in my sphere where I am? I don't need to wait for a program or wait. Let me listen to what's being said and say, you know what, with my own invitations, what can I do to be more inclusive in my own interactions? Where can I make a positive change and not just leave it up in the sphere of, things to do or conversations to have? I know Courageous Conversations where are we with Courageous Conversations? And if somebody wants to get involved or reach out, how would they do that?
so Right now, we've been in a hiatus.
Mhm.
We've done some groups on Zoom,
Yeah.
and they've been successful. I won't say they haven't been, but I feel the getting together as a group in someone's house is very important. And so I haven't pushed it a lot.
Mhm.
I want to regenerate some enthusiasm around this at this point in time, and now that we're coming out of the pandemic, so
Yeah.
maybe we can actually get some
Yeah.
groups going. Um, so if someone's interested in participating, they should send me an email.
Okay.
And my email is len2654@gmail.com.
Perfect. Perfect. So, so for you, this is sidebar, courageous conversation. So for you, what's going on with you? What's next steps for you in your life of busy over there?
My life is busy. Well, I'm involved with the mediation program. I'm involved with Courageous Conversations. I'm involved with Home Inc. I'm working right now for the Community Foundation on their DEI initiatives,
Mhm.
and I'm about to leave um, to go on vacation for a month. So,
Well, you deserve it with all that. Aren't you also involved in Inclusive Resilient Yellow
oh
Springs
yes, yeah,
Coalition?
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, see, that's why I
I don't
said,
know how I forgot that, but yeah,
listen, that name alone. Woo.
I'm involved with them too. I, for a guy who's lazy, I seem to be pretty busy.
Clearly not. Clearly not. Well, Len, thank you so much for opening up our minds to, the possibilities of stepping into conversations with intentionality and hearing some of the positive results, not just for the community, but personal results of how things can change, starting with yourself, starting with me.
And I think that's what you're right. That's a good way to put it. What you get out of Courageous Conversations. And I do want to add, I've been remiss in not mentioning that we are supported by the Community Foundation.
Mm,
Courageous Conversations is they gave us a grant, which we still have some money left for printing costs and um, expenses of having meetings. Like providing coffee and cookies and stuff for people who participate. So um,
yeah.
it's not like the community isn't interested in this.
Sure. There's definitely a need. Clearly, there's definitely interest. And now we just have to package it up and make the equal sign equal action.
Exactly.
Put the equation together. Well, Lynn, thank you and enjoy your vacation.
Well, thanks.
Absolutely. So that was Len Kramer with Courageous Conversations. What is the takeaway here? You can make a change right where you are. You may not be in a small town like Yellow Springs with the Yellow Springs Community Foundation supporting or have all of the other organizations to partner with, but there are some where you live. And if you do live in Yellow Springs, now you know there are things that you can do, opportunities that you can be a part of, and change that you can make. So thank you so much for joining us here on the PHILLIP Show. Make sure you reach out to Len Kramer. You'll have his email address if you're interested in any of the organizations, specifically having the courage to be a part of Courageous Conversations. We will see you next time. And remember that you are the best you in the world. See you later.
Don't wait.